Alright, so I've got my program from last video with my up and down fly and my little movement. So in my game, I'm treating this as an enemy. I call this PCB enemy. I want this thing to kind of give the illusion of my purple box moving. And I give the illusion by this thing coming and trying to hit my purple box. So it starts over here, comes swooping in, and passes by. And if my purple box intersects with it, then, you know, game over, or however you want to write your game logic. So how do I get this little enemy to come flying by? Well, this is pretty easy, something that you should be able to code. This is a picture box. It's got a location. Actually, before I get started, I don't want my picture box to start here. I want it to start off screen, because it looks stupid if it's just going to spawn here. So I can't drag it off my form, but what I could do is I could go to the location, and we've got an X and a Y value here. So the X value means it's 835 pixels away from the origin. So why don't I just push it 900? You can see it pushes it off the form a little bit. Let's push it to 1,000. And now it's completely off. So with it starting there in my timer, my game timer, I could just take that picture box and I could give it a new location. And the new location I will give it, well, I just want it, and now that your forms are, your controls off screen, you can find it here. So PCB enemy. I don't want to change the Y value, right? I don't want any vertical movement. I just want it to come back horizontally towards the origin. So that means I'm going to take its current X position, because X is horizontal movement, and I'm going to suck it in closer to the origin. So I'll probably subtract 4 there. I don't want to mess with the vertical position, in other words, the Y position, but I do need to specify one. So I will just take its previous Y location and I won't change it. So this is pretty straightforward. And now I get the box zooming from the right side all the way to the left. So there goes one box. So the question arises, well, how many picture boxes do I have to make? Because if I want my game to go on, I'm going to have to create a lot of picture boxes and have them come flying to the left. Well, the trick is, the secret is to use the same picture box. We only need one picture box. So what we could do is, when this picture box has slid all of its way off screen, instead of having a new picture box come, I'm just going to put this picture box back over here and use it again. And I'm just going to keep using the same picture box. So it's going to come all the way to the left, and once it's off screen, I'm just going to say, hey, go back here and do it again. So how could you do that? Well, you'll notice this picture box's location. If it's moving, it's moving, it's moving, that X position is getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it hits about the negatives. And if it pushed out even farther to the left, so if we went minus 100, see how it's completely off the screen? So I know when that X position hits minus 100 or is anything less than minus 100, that picture box is completely off my screen. It went from the left side to, or it went from the right to the left, and it's completely gone now. So in my timer, I could check for that condition. I could say, hey, if the location of my picture box, and more specifically, if the X coordinate of my picture box has reached a point where it's less than minus 100, I know that that picture box has completely went off the screen. So if it's less than a minus 100, it must be off the screen, and therefore I need to bring it all the way back so I can restart the cycle. And how do I bring it all the way back? Well, I put it to its original location, which we have as, 1000 and negative 3. So I'll take that enemy. I will give it a new location. And according to my form, if I want them to spawn right back there, I'm going to use 1000 and negative 3. Your numbers might be different. That's okay. Now, once it's back in that original spot, it'll keep moving to the left, but it does that loop effect. So now it's going to come, and it's going to go off the screen. My timer's going to detect that it went off the screen, the if statement, and it's going to put it back to where it began. So I'm using the same picture box over and over again, but it looks like I've seen 4 or 5 different enemies come at me. But literally, it's just the same picture box. Now, you may see the issue here is it's a very boring enemy because it's continuous. It is coming back, but it's coming back from the exact same location. In other words, it's always coming back from the top, and it's moving. So if you're making a game, that'd be a pretty boring game because you would know, oh, this picture box is just it's staying at the top of my screen. So I'm just going to avoid the top of my screen. So yes, as far as the horizontal direction is concerned, yes, I do want to bring it all the way back here in the X direction. But in the Y direction, I could have it here, I could have it here, I could have it here, I could have it here. I could have all of these different Y locations available to me. As a matter of fact, so we would say this is the very top. We wouldn't want to go any higher than this. So my Y location is like -3 or whatever. We could probably just put that to 0. And the very biggest Y coordinate I could have is probably at the bottom of the screen, 393. So from 0 to 393 are all of my possible locations I could put that box. So instead of putting it back at -3, or maybe let's just go 0. So instead of putting it exactly back at 0, what I could do is I could generate a random number to give it some variety. And I could make a integer variable called random Y location. And I could say, hey, my random Y location is going to be a random number between what numbers? Well, I can be all the way up here at the top at 0, or I can be all the way at the bottom here at 400. Right? Where's my location? Or 388. Let's go 390. So I can generate a random number from 0 to 390, which is really just 389, but who cares? It's 1 pixel off. And whatever number I randomly generate, I'm going to use that as my Y coordinate for my enemy location. So now when I run my program, yes, it comes in at the top, but when it goes back to the starts, it comes in at a random Y location. So I know it's going to come back to the start, but I don't know vertically where it's going to end up. And so now I've given my game a little bit more flavor. It's more exciting. I don't know where the box is going to come from. Pretty straightforward as well. And see, maybe that's too low. Maybe that's too low down there. So maybe I don't want to go that low. Maybe I'm going to go like, I don't know, 360 or something. So I'm not going to push it down that far. And now, so yeah, it's just about playing and testing and seeing what you like. And now we got two things moving fluidly and very nicely. And you can move on to the next step with whatever game we're trying to make here.